Welcome back. It's time to wake up, Woodward. I'm so glad that you guys are able to be here with us. Definitely hit that like button to support the crew and to support the stream. And that phone line, once again, is 313-552-6322. We're here with the whole crew. You guys already know what it is. It's your boy Brandon Dent and Detroit Kool-Aid. We got Mr. Matt Broder down there.
Morning.
Sam Reynolds himself is back. Couldn't be more happy to have my bro back in the building. And you guys already know we got the most elite booth boys at Woodward Sports and really in the whole entire media game. We got the GOAT, JB Smooth in the TD booth. Man, say what up to the people, bro.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Matter of fact, hey.
Good morning. I think you're muted.
And we got
no, he's up.
Yeah, and we got Mr. KG himself, the real KG, Detroit's first round draft pick KG.
Top of the morning. What's going on, y'all?
What up, though?
What up, though? Feeling good, man. The Pistons did something. They did something. I'm cool with that. Let's start with that. They did not sit on the deadline. So, man.
Yeah, look, and I couldn't be, you know what? I'm actually okay with these early developments. It shows me that they are setting this thing up for something a little bit bigger down the road. I'm hoping that's by this trade deadline and not the offseason. But if it is by the offseason, I am at least okay with some of the moves that they've made. Obviously, we're going to recap a little bit. The bigger trade of the two that they've made already was Simone Fontecchio. And that was for Kevin Knox, the rights to Procida, and a 2024 second-round pick. And when I got to talk to Hutran from the Hitting the High Notes Jazz podcast, he covers Utah Jazz for the Believe Network. He gave me some pretty good tidbits, man. And there was a clip that I actually posted on socials yesterday, and it's actually should be on Woodward Sports Twitter as well. That kind of shows a little bit of this guy's game. His rookie season to his sophomore season in the NBA, he made some big jumps, especially with the three-point shooting. He's a high-volume three-point shooter. He stands about 6'7", 6'8". 4.7 three-pointers a game is what he attempts, and he hits it at about a 39.1% clip.
I like to hear that.
That's pretty good. And it's not just a standstill shooter. He's one of those guys that relocates. So one thing that you've heard me scream about in the Woodward Pistons podcast is that nobody on this team moves. You see Cade Cunningham dribbling. You see Ivy dribbling. Nobody's cutting. Nobody's moving. Nobody's filling the empty space that's created by the ball handler. This guy does those things, and he was actually a starter for the Utah Jazz. He's been starting for them since about mid to early December, and he's actually been a big part of they haven't had a lot of success, but he's been a big part of their offense. I know that their fans are a little bit like, yo, why did we make this move? They're not necessarily understanding the kind of what the Utah Jazz are doing. They thought if there was a move to be made, it would be to kind of free up a little bit of cap space going into this free agency. So this was a move that people questioned. He is going to be a restricted free agent, so that kind of signals to me that the Utah Jazz had already known they're probably going to go in a different direction next year rather than picking up that RFA deal for him.
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Does this move, actually two questions, does this move tell you anything? Bojan Bogdanovic is still on the team, right?
He is.
Yeah, so does this say anything about what their plans might be with Bogey? And maybe we'll get more into it after. That second-round pick, that's not just a throw-in. That could be a very high second-round pick, possibly number 32, 33, 34. Are you okay with giving that up? Now we don't have a second-round pick for a couple of years. Our picks are limited at the moment.
Yeah, the Pistons largely, they've shown that whenever they do win a second-round pick, they can go out there and either acquire one or buy one pretty easily. Every year that they've needed one, they've gone out there and done that. They haven't necessarily utilized their second-round picks. Generally, they trade back into the first round, and they'll do multiple picks that way so they can get the higher picks. So if you look back at Troy Weaver's history, the first year he had 3 first-round picks. He just said, screw, I think the second-round pick actually would have been Saban Lee. The second year, he got Cade Cunningham and Isaiah Livers. The third year, it was Jaden Ivey, and then he traded back into the first round to get Jalen Duren. Then the fourth year, it was Asar Thompson. Then he traded back into the first round to get Marcus Sasser. I'm actually a little bit more okay with that strategy. But obviously, with a team that's kind of void of talent, you never want to just give up opportunities. But they did receive another second-round pick. Okay. But it's for 2030 and another deal. And I assume some of the deals that are going down today will actually help to replace those things. But you mentioned Bojan with this trade because the one thing I like about Simone Fontecchio is the fact that he plays defense. He's a two-way wing. He's not necessarily the scorer that Bojan is, but he brings a little bit more defense, a little bit more kind of creative ability. Some of the things that I liked out of Bojan last year that seemed to be a little less consistent this year, this guy kind of does. He's not necessarily the potent scorer that Bojan is, but in terms of all-around game, he brings a little bit more to the table than Bojan does. But I don't think it necessarily replaces him or makes him more expendable. It does make another one of our three-point shooters expendable. And I'm going to talk about that right after, though, we talk. You know what? No, we'll talk about it right now. Kind of some of the rumors that are out there right now is Alec Burks. That's the three-point shooter that I believe he's going to probably replace.
Okay.
The Woj Pod mentioned that Detroit and Philadelphia had conversations yesterday. It broke off late last night, but it's supposed to...
Bogey for Embiid?
You know what? That would be it, man. That would be the deal, right?
Saying.
Of the century.
Best
we'll take Maxey
right
too. Just throw them all in the deal.
Yeah. Talks are supposed to pick up again today, but it looks like Burks might be headed back to New York. It says that Detroit and New York talks key around Alec Burks. The deal could have Grimes plus expirings, Fournier, and potential picks coming back to Detroit.
Can we just get our pick back? Like, is there a scenario, and if you got other things to talk about, tell me to F off.
No. But let's talk ball, man.
The New York Knicks, they have the rights to a Pistons' future first-round pick, right?
Yeah.
Could there be a situation where it's like, you have Alex Burks, we'll take just our pick back so we can get back in the first round, or something like that?
That pick is going to wind up, I know a lot of people are upset with that. That pick is going to wind up becoming a second-round pick for the New York Knicks.
Okay.
The longer it goes, the deeper. It has crazy protections on it to the point that if it doesn't convey, I believe within like 5 years or so, then it winds up becoming or conveying as a second-round pick for the New York Knicks.
Gotcha.
Which is vital. Those protections that Troy Weaver put on that pick, now I kind of see why at least some of the losing is all bad, but at least in this case, they get some aspect of help with it. This year I know it's top 18 protected. Next year is a little bit more, a little less protected. But if it doesn't convey after next season, then I believe it is a second-round pick. The other thing, as it relates to the trade deadline, it is today at 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the trade deadline when it officially comes to a close. The Pistons are also showing interest in Buddy Hield.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
I'll take that.
Please. I don't know. Take that too. I don't know who they're talking about trading for it. I haven't seen too much about it yet. But that was from Pompey on Sixers that the Detroit Pistons are interested in him. And so it could be a wild day for the Detroit Pistons. I'm hoping they make some requisite deals to bring more rotation players in. All the trades they've made so far have been about bringing in rotation players, except for the Monte Morris deal. Monte Morris, Michigan native. He wanted to play for the Detroit Pistons. He was proud to be able to put on that jersey. We got to talk to him at a couple media availabilities. I got to speak to him at a lot of the different community events as well. You talk about a guy who was in the streets, and wherever the Pistons were doing community events, he was there. And then even if they weren't doing stuff, he still found ways to give back to Flint, to Saginaw, to Detroit, to different high schools, to little leagues and things of that nature. This is just an all-around good guy who effectively got the dream of a lifetime to be able to come home and put on a jersey that he's still to this day. He said, this will always be a special jersey and a special place for me. This was his team. They did trade him to the Minnesota Timberwolves for Shake Milton, Troy Brown Jr., and 1 second-round pick back to the Pistons, which is going to be a 2030 second-round pick. They are rotation guys. The second years on both of those deals for Shake Milton and for Troy Brown Jr. are both non-guaranteed. So the Pistons don't have to bring them back. They don't have to spend that money. So it frees up a little bit more cap space for them going into the offseason, but it brings in some more rotation pieces. That's now 5 rotation pieces that the Detroit Pistons have brought in the last 3 or 4 weeks from Danilo Gallinari, Mike Muscala, Shake Milton, Troy Brown Jr., and Simone Fontecchio. So they're doing some things. We want to kind of see if they get a buddy. That to me would be not necessarily a huge splash, but you know what? That's more than throwing pebbles in the water and looking at the little droplets come up. You know, that's more like throwing a decent-sized rock in there and getting a player back that I believe. Oh.
Yeah. Is it safe to say that these moves, while sort of changing up their core a little bit or reinvigorating it, re-veteranizing it, we'll make up some words here this morning, this isn't necessarily going to be that core rotation moving forward, but it could set them up better in the offseason as Troy Weaver starts to make more serious moves, you know, around the NBA draft to really build the team that we think can, whatever next level is, you know, get the Pistons, you know, moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's what fans want too, man. Shout out Mason Leach. He said, I want names. We need names. I'm tired of having these bench guys from other teams. They are bench guys for a reason. And I agree with that. I've been saying that I want the Pistons to go out there and make this splash that they've been talking about they're going to make for the last kind of now 2 years. Go out there and bring in a guy to mesh. But the caveat here is that they believe Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren are the names. If we can't depend on those guys, like what's the name on the Orlando Magic's? Who's their name?
Paolo.
Yeah. Paolo
Franz Wagner.
Franz Wagner. But what are those guys? Are they big names that they went out and acquired, or big names that they went out and drafted?
Yeah.
That's the whole point here. They want their guys to step up and be those guys like we saw last night. Be the reason why this team is moving forward. Do I think that they need a name at that 4 spot? I absolutely do. I don't think that you're going to find anybody in this year's draft that's going to step in and be that guy. They need to go out there and find somebody. Some people are believing it's going to be a Tobias Harris type of a deal. If that's just your only shot, then okay. But I'm hoping they can go out there and work something a little bit different. They owe it to this young core. Yeah. But the moves they did make, at least you're changing over this kind of, depending on 7 rookie contract players, and you're bringing in a few more rotation guys that can play a little bit better defense, can move a little bit better on offense, can cut and things of that nature. But I'm ready for the splash. I agree with the people.
I think one of the Splash brothers.
Yeah.
So real quick, I did kind of hear that maybe the Killian Hayes trade request might have came from the organization per se and not necessarily from his camp. But where do you see the Killian Hayes thing going? Do you see him getting traded by the deadline, or is he going to be on this team going into the offseason?
If Monty Williams has his way, Killian Hayes is going to be on the team. If Troy Weaver has his way, Killian Hayes will be traded. He would have been traded this offseason. That's kind of the news that came out a little bit ago, maybe about a week ago, when this kind of Killian's camp wants him out. Troy Weaver was trying to trade him because I don't believe they're bringing him back. And he has a $10 million qualifying offer, a cap hold this summer. You just can't entertain that at all.
Absolutely not.
If they were to bring him back, this is a situation where they would wind up kind of releasing him anyway and then working out another deal for him. But I think that ship has sailed. I think our buddy Flannel would also agree with that as well. The ship for Killian Hayes has absolutely sailed. I owe you an apology, my brother.
Oh, you don't have to apologize. I mean, he made that 3 going into halftime, so that makes up last night. So that makes up for everything, right? I'm obviously a shot in the chat. Probably that's probably actually what he's thinking. But no, yeah, Killian has definitely got to go, and it seems like, at least with these moves, that in some ways, or the Fontecchio move, shooting is something that the Pistons are prioritizing. I'm not saying it's a splash, but when you have some concerns with 3-point shooting with some of your core guys like Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, Asar Thompson can't shoot threes at all. Jalen Duren doesn't shoot threes. You could obviously use more of that. Buddy Hield, I think, would be a nice move. Shake Milton is somebody that did not fit in Minnesota. He's actually had a pretty bad year, and his market value will never be lower. So we'll see if the Pistons can get anything out of him. He is a guy that was a pretty big part of some of those Joel Embiid-led 76ers teams that made some prematurely cut playoff runs, but still, Shake Milton, he was decent for them, at least for a couple of years. So we shall see. Nothing that's going to move the needle too much, but Buddy Hield might move it just a tad.
Yeah, that would for me too. Like I said, if they can come away with at least that at the trade deadline, it would restore a little bit of faith. You're talking about adding a starter level player to this team. Obviously, Simone Fontecchio, he was a starter for the Utah Jazz. So you're getting 2 players who, honestly, you can depend on in this rotation and in this lineup, as well as beefing up kind of your rotation players. So let's see, man. 3 o'clock is the trade deadline. I will go live around 4 o'clock today on Woodward Pistons to be able to discuss anything that happens with these Detroit Pistons. So looking forward to it.
Let's go. I'm excited. Follow this man, Detroit Kool-Aid. This is for all the up-to-date Pistons news, baby.
Hey, that's what it is. But I know we got our special guest up next.
Doc.
Man. Yes, sir.
Doc, he's coming in. Before we get to Doc, John Macaroon, could you tell us about Premier?